you, Josh, for recording this session so that we can take a look at it later and share it with other friends. Again, I'm Liz Jennings with Community Action of Skagit County, and this is our monthly Brunch and Learn with Community Action. And I was just showing off my brunch is a cup of coffee. I hope you all are comfortable. And the history of our Brunch and Learn is that it used to be Lunch and Learns. Back in the before times, before the pandemic, we had monthly 1 hour, actually about 45-minute workshops where we would look at a big community need, what we as a community in Skagit County across nonprofits, government, and business are doing to address it together, if there's community plans, coalitions, things along those lines. And then we'd go deeper into community actions programs, like what's our part of that collaboration to meet that community need. And we suspended those during the pandemic and decided to get back at it because we have so many new staff on our own agency and community partners, board members and elected officials who found these useful. So this year we've looked at our street outreach programs, community actions advocacy efforts and working with local and state and federal government. We've looked at food security in Skagit County and our food distribution center, WIC, and basic food programs. And today, we also looked last month at education and employment. Today, we're going to be talking about community needs and challenges in rural and isolated parts of Skagit County. And then we'll focus in on community action services in collaboration with Skagit County government at the East County Resource Center and the Concrete Community Center. So we welcome you all here today. We are going to have about a half hour of presentation and then open it up for conversation, questions, and answers. So we're very glad to have you all here. We had about 83 register today, and it looks like folks are starting to come in now. So today we are glad to have with us Stephanie Semro, who is our East County manager, and Tara Rubel, our food service coordinator. First, we're going to hear from Bill Henkel, our executive director, about the history of the partnership between Community Action and the county and the people in Upriver, East County, Skagit County. But first, I'd like to introduce Josh Ruff, who is our new marketing and communications specialist at Community Action. And this is his first Brunch and Learn, and he's jumping right in, helping out with video and logistics. So thank you and welcome aboard, Josh.
Hi, everybody.
So Bill Henkel, my boss, I'm looking at the list. It looks like you're here somewhere. Are you able to join us? Bill. Well, we can always come back. Oh, he dropped out. I know the connections are wonky this morning. So, Josh, please watch the list, and when Bill's back, we'll pull him back in. So we are talking about some community needs that are particular to East County, but then also some needs, some issues that are affecting us across Skagit County and the region. And number one, of course, is the lack of affordable housing. And that is impacting every person in Skagit County, and especially people with lower incomes. And I was struck over a year ago, actually, it was while we were still having to social distance, there was a Windermere, the state economist for Windermere Real Estate did a presentation thanks to a local realtor who hosted him. And the state economist, looking at the big picture across Washington state and looking at Skagit County in particular, he pointed out, you all don't like to pull permits in Skagit County. Basically, he was saying you're not building enough housing. And he was talking specifically to that audience of realtors about home sales. But it was really interesting because he brought it back back to the lack of apartments. And this is particularly a need in East County. Housing, we used to joke that, when people were ready to buy a home, and housing around here is so expensive that people would drive until they qualify, right? Going further and further out away from more urban centers to find housing that was affordable. Well, a year ago, East County, the concrete area, was the number 1 area in Skagit County for the increase in home prices. So while home prices were going up across the county, it was over 20% increase in home prices in East County. And so we can no longer say that there is more affordable housing in the more rural and isolated parts of Skagit County. Housing affordability crisis is affecting us everywhere. And of course, where housing prices go up, so goes the experience of homelessness. More people are experiencing homelessness in all corners of our community, and East County is no exception. But it does look differently in East County, and the experience is different there. To get started, though, I do want to acknowledge that the history of community action with the East County Resource Center goes back many years, and we need to do a shout out and a thank you to Skagit County government, our county commissioners, who really saw the need for resources and services in East County. And in fact, by population now, community action serves a higher percentage of the concrete community and a higher percentage of East County residents than any other community in Skagit County. So our presence there of actually having a front door to services and resources at the East County Resource Center is significant for the people who live there, and the people who live there are very involved in advising and directing the types of services that are provided. So we might come back to Bill to give us more of that history if he's able to join us. But for now, I'd like to turn it over to Stephanie, and I'm going to just ask a few questions. This is conversational. And, we used to say that Community Action's main office was in Mount Vernon. And we no longer say that, because now we've got the front door to services in East County. Our Skagit Vets Connect and Energy Assistance are in Burlington. We provide services in Anacortes and to members of the community in every corner of the community. And services have gotten more accessible since the pandemic, with many more things being available by phone and by internet. But why don't you tell us, Stephanie, just a little bit about what is the East County Resource Center and what types of services does Community Action provide there? And then I'll come back and ask about our partners in a little bit.
We provide energy assistance. We provide housing intakes, emergency food, bus passes to try and get people to services down in town and downriver. We have emergency vouchers for gas and propane. We have a clothing closet up here that is utilized by quite a few of our community members. And we also have the meal program that Tara runs.
And we are going to go to Tara because I know she's got a lunch to make. We'll go to her in a moment, but Stephanie, transportation is a particular issue for people in East County, especially with the high cost of gas. And in fact, this has been an issue for some time. I remember in our 2017 community needs assessment, where we did surveys of low-income households across the community, we saw a lot of families in East County reporting that transportation was the #1 barrier to them accessing services. And we heard stories about families really planning ahead, because people experiencing a lack of income or not enough income to meet needs such as housing our neighbors get really creative. They are resourceful and they're smart and they're creative. And we heard stories about people planning ahead with other families to essentially double up and do grocery runs or medical appointments in Mount Vernon or in other areas together. So can you maybe just tell a story without identifying anyone in particular about how transportation impacted an individual or a family's ability to get ahead on their goals?
We have a whole group of people that live up out of Marblemount that generally all get together once a week and come down to go to the food banks, access whatever they're needing to do, go grocery shopping. They try to do it all in one swoop. I know of a gentleman who walks to work pretty much daily, and he works in Burlington and he goes from Concrete. So he tries to hitchhike, but sometimes it's a full-on walk because the bus doesn't run at the hours that he's needing to go.
And in terms of food access, I think we're going to talk more about other partnerships, but I do want to make sure that we get to Tara so that she can start making lunch. Is Tara here?
She is.
Tara, if you wouldn't mind, tell us about, so there's two facilities that Community Action operates. The county owns the facilities and Community Action operates. There's the East County Resource Center and there is the Concrete Community Center. Can you tell us a little bit about the meal program at the community center, how often you provide meals and how many folks you're serving, whether that's daily, weekly, or monthly?
So we have the meal program that's open Monday through Friday. It's lunch is served every day from 11:45 to 12:45. And it's based on somebody's ability to pay. So if they don't have the monetary means to do so, we don't want that to stop them from coming in to eat. It's all fresh everything, fresh salad bar, fresh fruit. Everything's made from scratch. It's delicious. If any of you guys haven't tried it, you should come try.
I can attest. It's worth a field trip to go visit the Concrete Community Center and to visit the wonderful staff and volunteers there. So Tara, like what's on the menu today?
Today I think we're just having, because it's breakfast on Wednesdays. So I think we're having biscuits and gravy and blackberry cobbler. It's delicious because we have blackberries out and it's gonna be so good. Sorry. Anyway,
using the fruits of Skagit County.
Mm-hmm. We had to make a test run yesterday. We had to try it out.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah.
Got to try it out.
Yeah, we have biscuits and gravy today with sausage and scrambled eggs and then yogurt and blackberry.
So every Wednesday is breakfast for lunch?
Yes, every Wednesday is breakfast.
That's pretty popular, I hear.
Yes. People get a little upset if it deviates at all from the breakfast on Wednesdays.
And you have to be creative, right? Like you don't necessarily, you can't plan a month of meals ahead. How do you source the food? And then how do you get creative with what you've got?
So generally we partnership with the county. And so they provide us funding partially to get food from a main supplier like US Foods or it supplies restaurants and stuff. And then but a majority of our food comes from or is supposed to come from the Food Distribution Center and Food of Lifeline and all of those things. But for the past about 3 months now, there hasn't been there's been no food. There's been no food to order. So we can't
again, the Skagit Food Distribution Center, another partnership that started with the county.
Lifeline.
Is the Skagit Food Distribution Center is a program of community action. And this is the hub that typically gets in large shipments of food, semi-loads of food, and then gets it out to nearly 20 food pantries, food banks, and meal programs like yours throughout Skagit County. And they also supply some in San Juan County, Island County, Snohomish. And what you're talking about is an emergent need that that for quite some time there was plentiful food coming in and out of the food distribution center, but all of those sources are challenged right now. And so how does that impact your program? How do you plan ahead and make a meal?
It gets well, you can't really plan ahead to make a meal because like the distribution center, we get the food from US or from Northwest Harvest or Food of Lifeline. And you only have a select amount of food that is even available to you, possibly. And so in order to plan, and since we only get food orders once from that source every other week, some of the stuff that you might have ordered prior, by the time you get it, it's not any good anymore. If there was anything that you could use. So if you planned on making something out of that, you're just going to be having a bad day. So it makes it very interesting, and you have to be very willing to adapt quickly because often what you were going to make for lunch is no longer what you're going to be making for lunch. So it's really hard to make a menu or things like that when you can't, it's not the consistency or dependability of what you're going to be having isn't there. So you just have to be able to make something really fast. So it just gets interesting. It's kind of they've gotten used to the fact that they just know it's going to be good. Whatever it is, it's going to be good.
The customers, the patrons of the meal program.
Yeah, they've come accustomed to the fact that there's not a menu, and though it would be nice to have one, due to it constantly fluctuating and changing, we don't have the ability to make a menu that's going to be accurate.
Well, and let's talk about that a little bit more. The folks who come to the meal program, some of them come every day, some of them come a couple of times a week. They're coming there for more than just a meal, aren't they? Tell us what it's like in the. I see Chandra smiling and laughing. Wait, let's go to Chandra. This is another staff member at the East County Resource Center and Concrete Community Center. What is it like at lunchtime in that room?
It's fantastic. I sit at the front desk to help make sure people sign in, wash their hands. It is an absolute hoot to be sitting at that desk and to hear everything going on behind me. Multiple different conversations. It's really exciting because Stephanie and I started shortly before COVID, just a few months. And prior to working here, I had only came to the community center because Tara worked there and it would invite us to events. And so coming in and only working for a few months and encountering everybody socializing, and then COVID, and then not stopping and changing everything. And to see that excitement and engaging coming back, it's really uplifting, not only for us, but to see all of them and all these different kinds of relationships building. It doesn't matter where you're from or who you are or age. Conversations are engaging everywhere. And so it's just fantastic you may get somebody that just wants to have a conversation, and you may get somebody that actually needs a need, or knows somebody that needs something that hasn't came in. But it's fantastic. It's fun.
At Community Action, we talk about outcomes, for the folks that we serve. And so the outcome of the meal program at Concrete is nutrition. And it adapted from when there was, it was a senior center and there was a senior meal program. But what you're saying is now it's a much more diverse mix of people. And one of the intentional outcomes is community building and relationship building. Did you want to say something more about that, Tara?
It's like we're building a small army up here, just so we're saying, just I mean, all the people that we have, people that they'll come all the way from Birdsley, they come from Marblemount, they come from everywhere just to come and get lunch. They don't like, if somebody needs something, if they need help doing anything, like they need help mowing their lawn, or they need help moving a bed or a couch, or they need a couch, or they need anything, they come here for lunch, and then they go and they find, just through talk. I mean, we'll have somebody that might have behavioral health problems, or struggling with substance abuse, or seniors, or children, or people from the bank at the grocery store, but they'll come and they sit and they have lunch. Like Chan said, it doesn't matter who they're having. By the end of it, by the end of lunch, somebody that's experiencing homelessness or has behavioral health problems or whatever, they're going to help the person down the street by making some money, mowing their lawn, because they just sat and had lunch together, and they're off on their own. And then they'll come back, and we have the seniors that there's just so much social networking that they do on their own between each other. It's really great. I mean, we've between all the volunteers that we've had that have started in the kitchen and then evolved through the meal program, we've employed a total of 15 different volunteers that came in as volunteers while experiencing homelessness or experiencing some kind of unstable situation, that have left, that are now employed in the community, that still come in for lunch. So it's so much more than just coming for lunch. They all get to socialize, and they build, it's
neighbor helping neighbor.
Oh man, and they get very protective of it too. And they get very, it's funny. It's kind of even just like, if somebody's having a really bad day, it's like other people know, like, okay, just leave them alone, like give them some space. Or if somebody's upset with one of us because we were unable to, we didn't have something that they requested, or they were mad at us because we couldn't provide them with what they wanted, the other, community members will be like, hey, you don't be me. They're very, they
have ownership of the community center.
Yes. And they're very appreciative, and they're very, and they constantly tell us how much they appreciate it, and how much it helps them. I mean, people come in that are, just upset and not having a good day. And by the time that they left, they're smiling, their bellies are full, they're good, they're ready for whatever they can take on the world, because they just like reset when they walk in the door.
And one of the things that I'd like to point out for our staff and partners who are here today is, a lot of times at Community Action, you'll hear us talk about that one of the products that we have is hope. And that sounds like a tagline, but what you're hearing is that's really true, and how important it is when folks in our community are struggling because of the high cost of housing, because it's difficult to make ends meet, that neighbor helping neighbor, as well as the nutritious creative meal, people build their hope and are able to find ways to help themselves or help their neighbors get ahead. So Tara, thank you so much. I know that you do need to get cooking. Is there anything else that you would like the participants here to take away as an aha from you, or I wish you could see it kind of thing?
Well, I just wish you could all see it. If you haven't been up here, you should really just come up here and check it out. But there's also, along with just having the meal program, there's also, prior to COVID, we also had, they would come in and play cards and pinochle and dominoes on Fridays. So we'd have all our seniors. Unfortunately, majority of our seniors had passed away during COVID, which is, so though it's still open and available, we don't have the same group that was here before, prior to COVID. But we still have the activities where they come in, there's pinochle, and then we have the kids that will draw and play cards, and there's board games. And then they also have the community closet, which we have volunteers that have also gained employment just from being in the community closet, where people, it used to be up at the elementary school, and then when they're no longer able to facilitate having it up there, we put it down here. And to date, it's helped almost 6,671 people or instances where they've aided them in emergency clothing, like where they were experiencing some kind
And
of
this is,
crisis.
I think, really important for those of us who don't live in an isolated place, and that issue of transportation. We think, oh, a clothing closet, that's a great idea, but here's the reason why. If somebody were to present at Community Action's office in Mount Vernon and they needed emergency clothes, maybe they'd gotten a job, as it's happened. I got a job at a cold storage facility, but I don't have a warm coat to be inside a freezer all day. And they come to Community Action, and one of our awesome resource specialists may be able to help them out with a voucher. And the voucher allows them to go and essentially shop for that coat for themselves. Well, when you're in Birdsview or Rockport, a voucher doesn't do you very much good if you also don't have a car or gasoline or something along those lines. So the closet at the community center helps fill that gap of people not being able to get things in an emergency situation with a voucher. Stephanie or any of the other staff want to say anything about that?
And yeah. And it's not just emergency clothes. We try to make sure that they have clothes for like court appearances. It's always if you can't wear it to church, we try not to keep it, is the rules, because that way it's appropriate for meetings, family events, court appearances, job interviews, anything like that. It's always, we make sure that it's in good repair, no stains, no rips, no malfunctions of any kind. And then that way, you have people that come in that have no boots, they have no shoes, they have no any of this stuff. And like you said, if you're in Marblemount and it's 14 degrees outside and you have court, it's you're going to need something to wear, especially if you are already, you don't have gas money, let alone clothes to wear. But when we also have the showers here that have been a recent addition. So when you can, even if you're experiencing homelessness, when you can come in and you can get lunch and then take a shower and put on clean clothes, just the fact that you might not have anywhere to sleep that night, you still have so many more tools with you, just being able to stand and be presentable, that your morale boosts and you feel more human and you feel more, you're confident, you gain confidence, and you can step out in the world and be like, okay, I can get a job because I don't stink and I'm not covered in dirty clothes and hungry. So it's a big deal.
The community center is a place where another product is dignity.
Yeah. And respect. And it's just making people feel like they're important, because they are important. But people forget that sometimes when you get down low enough sometimes, and you forget how great you are. And it's nice to go somewhere where people remind you of that or make you feel that you are very important. So.
Well, thank you for your part in that, Tara. And we've got some good comments in the chat from some partners, and we do want to talk about the partnerships and the other services in addition to those provided by Community Action that other partners provide at the Resource Center and the Community Center. But I do, I see Commissioner Janicki was on screen for a moment there. Are you still with us, Lisa?
Yeah, I was just saying farewell in the chat box.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Liz, really appreciate, and I saw Bill Hinkle has logged in now too, but really appreciate the flexibility and expansion that Community Action has been able to do in programming, and that moving from, senior meals only to that congregate food setting where so many, families are being able to benefit from that is just huge and responsive to the needs of our upriver community. So I think Tara is like magic. She can look inside, a truck of food and say, hey, I see, I have eaten up there a few times, not since COVID, but, I think back to that book that my kids used to do at preschool. It's called Stone Soup. And really you make out of virtually nothing a wonderful meal that we get to share together. And that is the, it's a gift, Tara, and I continue to really marvel at your ability to feed so many. My mom, Filipino mom, it was always about food. Food was always the gathering
Right.
focus. And I think that's true of a lot of culture. So
And Lisa, I know you have to go to another meeting, but briefly, you have office hours there as well. Is that right? Or you did before COVID?
yeah, I do not have standing office hours. The empty space that was a commissioner's office there has been long now better utilized for service providing. So, but I'm, absolutely available. Call down to the commissioner's office, and now that we're all a little bit more mobile, happy to make the trip upriver as needed. So,
Well, thank you for being here today, Lisa.
yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And I think that my boss was able to make it on. Bill, are you available? I thought I saw your face for a moment. All right, we'll get back to him eventually. So I do want to turn to partnerships and services, and I'm just going to share my screen briefly. This is the Community Action website, where the East County Resource Center services are on there. And as Stephanie had said, our team at Community Action does provide critical needs, helps people sign up for energy assistance and utility assistance. And for those who are on this call, if there's one thing you can do to help people keep more of their income in the home to use for basic needs, energy assistance is available for more people than ever before. And our team up there at the East County Resource Center helps people sign up for energy assistance. Veteran Services, another partnership with county staff and Community Action Skagit Vets Connect, Veteran Services at the Resource Center. Emergency food, and we have had financial health and GED classes up there in the past. And then as partners have said in the chat, other partners can reserve space to provide services once a week, once a month, something along those lines. Stephanie, can you just say a little bit about the space that's available and the types of partners that have reserved space to meet client needs in East County? Oh, Anna, you're on mute.
We have WIC in the office finally coming back, which is, we're super excited. They'll be here on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of the month. And then we have Sunrise Services and Compass Health that come in. Well, they don't come into the office. They provide telehealth through our office
So
2 times a week.
And tell us about that. This is something new. You set up telehealth. What does that mean? What might I be experiencing that I come in and then set up an appointment with Sunrise or another organization? And what's that experience like?
So the client would contact either Sunrise or Compass Health themselves, and they would set up the appointment for the concrete office here. The client would come in. They say that they have an appointment. We move them into a back office that has a computer set up. We help them log on. We close the door, and they are able to have their sessions in the office where it's safe and quiet most of the time. Mm-hmm.
What other types of partners have worked with the East County Resource Center, either presently or in the past?
We have Veteran Services that come in the first Friday of the month. And Chris Diaz is amazing. He has made several contacts through going down to the meal program and eating lunch and visiting with the people down there.
So that's
Mm.
another example of any community partner organization that provides services could come and start building relationships with folks just by having lunch with them, and then set up having office hours or just making their appointments. And how do they do that? If an organization is interested in co-locating occasionally at the resource center, how do they go about doing that, Stephanie?
They would contact, they would contact us. We would look on our calendar to see when we have an office open. And then we would move on, see when the availability was open and then schedule them on that for that time.
And I put your email address, the East County Resource Center email, in the chat.
Yes.
Now, I understand that in partnership with the county, and I believe United General was the contractor, there was a needs assessment done recently about what do folks in the community want to see at the community center? What were some of the things that that we heard that the community would like?
Activities down at the community center, a shelter, children's activities and after school activities, and more signage to know who owns the building or who's operating the building.
So
was a big one.
In terms of services, children's activities, more community-based activities, and those are things that isn't necessarily just up to community action to provide that. Any group in the community could brainstorm, get creative, and if the timing and the resources worked out, could be a partner there as well. Now, I do want to mention that we have heard there's a lot of interest in using the community center as a shelter, as a winter shelter or a cooling center in the summertime, things along those lines. And I just want to acknowledge that community action is gratefully taking the lead of the county. I believe both County Public Health and Department of Emergency Management are discussing amongst themselves together about how to convene that conversation, because there may be some issues to resolve before being able to do that. So community action is there as a partner, but if anyone is interested in that question around sheltering, we're taking the lead of the county and would probably direct you to our partners at Public Health for that conversation. Anything else that you'd like to say about the East County Resource Center or needs in the more rural and isolated areas, Stephanie, before we open it up for some Q&A?
I do want to mention a couple other partners. We do partner with Mount Baker Presbyterian and the MAT program.
And what is that?
The MAT program is a medically assisted treatment program. And Kevin is on here. He can speak to that way better than I can. And then we also have, I have Medicare.org that comes into the office, and that is Malou, who helps people set up their part A, B, C, whatever it is with Medicare. I can't remember all the DEs with it.
The alphabet soup of Medicare.
It is. And anyways, so she comes in and Malou is phenomenal. She can help anybody with any sort of Medicare issues. And that is pretty much it. The other issues, that challenges I find for people that are in East County, besides housing being an issue and watching across the board rental rates and the cost of buying a home just skyrocket, that it's problematic for people trying to find a job. They have to travel 25 plus miles. And a lot of our people that are in the upriver community don't have a lot of education. So then they're trying to find a job that doesn't require education and trying to find a job that's going to pay enough to live on.
Well,
Those
I'm looking at our RSVP list to see if we've got anybody from the economic development community on the call here today. So obviously, I think in our last community needs assessment survey, housing was number one, and jobs to pay for all of the above was number two in terms of community needs. And I see, Kevin, you're getting some hugs there, but can we ask you as a partner to tell us a little bit about the services that Mount Baker Presbyterian assists with in the MAP program?
Yeah, a little over a year ago, we partnered with a bunch of different providers to provide medically assisted treatment to our community. Not knowing what we were going to find, we found out that there's a huge need for those types of services in our community. And it's been growing exponentially over the course of the year, and the projected growth over the next 2 years is kind of dumbfounding, really. And so being able to partner with community action and just have that resource right there for us as our outreach workers in the community, to have that cohesive relationship to where Jen can just call Stephanie and be like, hey, I have this situation, what resources do you have available? And they're able to actually really work together to get somebody the resources that they need immediately is phenomenal. It's just an amazing team there, and we are lucky to be partners with them.
And thank you. And I hear that the sentiment is shared. And what is the demand? Like how many folks a month, a year are you serving, and how do you project that growth for the future?
They're on the shelf. So, sorry, my daughter has her first day of kindergarten today, and my wife's trying.
Oh, that's all right. We just put you on the spot.
No, it's okay.
We love hearing the background.
So I was just looking at some reporting for over the last 6 months, and over the last 6 months, my outreach that we do in partnership with Community Action had about 306 points of contacts. 113 of them were all classified as substance use disorder dependent, and 33 of those got referred to directly to MAT, with everybody else on that basically getting referred to other direct services. And a number of those services come directly from Community Action. And so if we didn't have that office and that team in that building right now, we would not be able to do the work that we're doing.
Well, thank you, and happy first day of kindergarten. It sounds like someone's very excited to go to school. Hello, happy first day of school. Well, it looks like Bill might have his technical issues worked out. And before we open it up to Q&A, Bill, is there anything that you want to say about the history of Community Action's partnership with the county, and anything that you'd like to note moving forward?
I'd like to note that I can't wait till the world isn't entirely Zoom, so I don't have mornings like this morning when it was frustrating to get in. So apologies. I've been listening in and trying to get in. Gosh, I think you all covered it. It's really great humility that we're in a partnership with so many folks, whether it's Kevin Riley, certainly the county, and an incredible team and staff up there, and a partner of that come in and out all the time. And you know, I think you went over it, Liz, the history of the county really saying, here's a community that's relatively isolated from where more of the services are in the community, and we need to do something about it. And we were really, really pleased to be part of the growth of the Community Resource Center, and now the Concrete Center as well. And it's just taken so many folks, as I think you noted, that the county owns those facilities and we manage them, and then we rely on our partners and great staff up there. So I think I'm just repeating what's already been said, but it really is, it's been amazing to watch that grow and grow and grow and grow and do more and more and more, and more partners stepping up to the plate and adding into the magic and the wonder of it all. So I'll just stop there, because I think I'm just repeating.
Well, I'm glad you got your technical difficulties taken care of. Again, that's Bill Henkel, our Executive Director at Community Action. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to any questions from participants, questions or comments, and I'll try to facilitate and direct traffic. So if you want to raise your virtual Zoom hand, I'll call you in order, or you can just take yourself off mute if there's a pause. So go ahead, Alex, a question or a comment.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have a couple of questions, actually.
Actually,
One
please
is-
introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Alex Foster. Let's see. I'm a retired attorney. I've been involved in a variety of political work, but more recently I put together a resource guide for an organization called civilsurvival.org, which is was a guide of services for people who are formerly incarcerated. But in the process of doing it, I realized Skagit Community Action already had a resource guide. So I incorporated a lot of the information from your own guide and realized that it was a guide that would work very well for people who are experiencing homelessness and poverty, regardless of whether or not they have a conviction. But the question that I have for you is, in doing my research for that guide, I discovered that there was, it didn't seem to me that there was any sheltering for upriver. And from what I hear this morning, it sounds like there's an effort to try to get the East County Resource Center be a shelter. But is there what do people who are homeless, how do they, I mean, are they camping out in a neighbor or a friend's place, or have we experienced people dying on the streets basically up in East County? So that's that's my first question.
All right, we're going to start with that first one, and then we'll see if anyone else has questions
Sure.
and come back to you, Alex. Thank you
Of
very
course.
much. So I think that's a wonderful question, and I kind of take it for granted because I work, my office is right down the hall from Community Action's street outreach team. And so I've heard the stories of women living together for safety in a barn. You know, I've got some images in my mind, but maybe Stephanie, can you just describe what the experience of homelessness is like in more rural areas and how it might be different than more urban areas?
A lot of our people, they couch surf, especially during the winter times. They live out of old broken down RVs, campers. They're very resourceful. So they have set up camps around in the rural wooded treed areas that are pretty elaborate camps on some of theirs. And they've all managed to survive. They've managed to weather the winters. There are
Floods.
people, the floods were a major thing, and they're quite resourceful and creative. They've always had to be, and that it was a lot of the people that are up here have been born and raised up here. They do not want to leave this area. That's where they feel comfortable at. It's where they feel at home at. So being raised up here, you're naturally raised to be creative and resourceful because there is not a lot of money in this area. There never has been.
And to be clear, that when someone presents as homeless at the East County Resource Center, our staff works with them, and if they're willing to be added to what is called the housing interest pool, that's coordinated entry for homeless services in Skagit County. And that is not a wait list, a first come, first serve wait list. It's all of the homeless service providers together have one pool, so people don't have to go around to individual shelters and ask for help. So when they present, and they must be literally homeless though by HUD definitions. And so, for example, Stephanie mentioned couch surfing, and one of the complications of our homeless system is, while the state, the superintendent of public instruction, and our schools recognize that couch surfing is a form of homelessness, the feds don't. And so to qualify for coordinated entry, someone must be literally homeless, meaning not couch surfing, but rather living in a place that is not fit for human habitation. So that would be an RV without utilities, a shed, a barn, the woods, so on and so forth. And so that interest pool, not a first come, first serve list, it's vetted by vulnerability. And so individuals who, or families with children, for example, seniors, people with disabilities might qualify for housing before someone else on that list. And I don't know what it is at this moment. Somebody else on the call might, but I think the last time I asked, it was around 350 households in all of Skagit County were in the housing interest pool at any given time. And so if they qualify for shelter, and if there's a shelter that is appropriate for that individual or family, they'll get that referral. But as Stephanie said, folks need to opt into that, and they may not want to leave their home community. And so that is a barrier, in addition to not enough shelters, and number one problem being not enough housing. If we had enough housing, there would be fewer people experiencing homelessness, and there would be more openings for people to go once they did qualify for coordinated entry. Again, in terms of the future of shelters, that's a conversation the county is going to lead for East County. And we look forward to participating in that. But Alex, if you've got particular questions, for example, there were shelters for the floods, and in some circumstances, cold weather shelters. That would be a conversation to have with the county. Other questions? Jose, go ahead.
Yeah, I've known of many families that are Hispanic families that are moving up to that area because of the rent is so high in Mount Vernon, Burlington, Cedar Woolley. So I've heard a lot of those stories, that it's really hard for them to travel that far for work. Do you see the families moving up there and settling there?
Stephanie, do you see more Hispanic, Latino, Spanish speaking families coming into the area?
I have not seen them coming into our office here, but when I am at the DOL office, I have seen quite a few more changing their addresses and whatnot. The part that concerns me is literally the rental cost up here is almost the same amount as down river. It's insane.
And Jose, I think your observation is a good opportunity for us to partner yet again, and to say, if this is something you're seeing, how can we
Reach them.
put out a better welcome mat for our new community, our new neighbors, or have others like Catholic Community Services providing services out of the resource center, since those are folks that they may already know, and at the Farm Worker Center. Steve, you've got a hand up.
Yeah, hi, thank you. My name is Steve Zeiser. I'm brand new up here. I'm at Concrete School District. I'm the resource or re-engagement coordinator. And so it's my first year. I've spent the last 25 years down at Burlington Edison. So I actually used to go to the lunch community action meetings over in Mount Vernon and thought they were great. But here's my question, because I am just kind of brand new up here in Concrete. I'm familiar with the resource guide that for downriver folks. Is there a printed version for all of the services, the wonderful services I've been hearing about for East County? And if so, where do I get that? I meet with a lot of parents and families that could benefit from them. And I'd like to have something to be able to share with folks.
So we did suspend printing the resource guides during COVID because we weren't out and about as much, and we're reworking it to be easier so that you can print it off at your school, for example, Steve. And one other thing our team is working on now that we've got Josh, I'm looking at you, Josh, our marketing and communications specialist, is we're going to be working with each one of our programs to make sure that we've got up-to-date handouts, just flyers and handbills with the services for each program, including the East County Resource Center. But in the absence of that, how would you advise Stephanie?
I would recommend them coming into here to possibly get them, but we don't have any upriver per se resource guides. We used to have a little pocket guide, and as Liz said, you know, they had suspended printing and updating those till now, and now we're working on some other stuff first. The original guides for Skagit County, though, the resource guide has all of our resources in it, though, and lists of numbers and whatnot.
And so, Steve, on our website, I'm going to share my screen. On any page on the Community Action website, if you scroll down to the bottom, the community resource guide is available.
Okay.
So like, for example, if there's a resource that you're looking for regarding employment and training, and you found that resource here, you can just print it off and give it to someone.
Okay, great.
But again, it's not specific to upriver. So the digital guide is still there and is being updated on a regular basis. And we hope to have the printed version available again soon.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the good question. And thanks for coming to the community, serving it. Any other questions? We've got about 3 minutes left. A quick question from the group.
Hi, guys. I have one quick question. And it's
Tara.
for Steve. I know you can't see me because my video went away. I don't know how to get it back, so it's just not there. Steve, you work now recently for the Concrete School District, and you're the resource like specialist or person there, like finding resources in the community.
Yeah, so my official title is the Attendance and Re-engagement Coordinator.
So we have the Fresh Start Kitchen at the Concrete Center, which is an opportunity for somebody to come in, and it's a job training program. At one point, we were trying to partner with the school for the seniors there for their volunteer hours to gain volunteers from the school, for partnering them with Community Action to get the kids credits in their vocational learnings, that they would also be able to leave with certificates that would put them better fitted for employment once they leave high school.
Well, you and me need to get together then, huh?
Yes,
Sounds like.
yes.
All right,
Okay,
this
just
is
saying.
You know,
just-
this is one of those things where I know my boss hates Zoom, but sometimes we actually make connections with folks who we could probably walk up the block to go visit. So I'd love to see that happening here. I do also want to just give a last minute to Stephanie, if you're still on, because there isn't like an advisory group to the resource center, and it's a place where service providers, community members, folks from the school district can come together and share information and resources. Do you want to just say a little bit about that and when they meet?
We are partnering with the Concrete Resource Coalition, so we didn't have to add a whole nother meeting to someone's agenda, because a lot of the same information was always put out at both meetings. So we are partnering with them, and that will be wrapped up into the meetings that they have, which are the third, I believe the third Thursday between 3 and 4 of every month. We're just going back to it because They were out for the summer.
So we'll reconfirm that and can send it out to everyone who registered for this meeting. We can make sure that that information gets out there. Also,
hi, sorry to interrupt. I'm the coordinator for the Concrete Resource
Oh, great.
Coalition, so I can go ahead and put my email in the chat. And yes, Stephanie got the meeting time correct. It's 3 to 4:30 on the third Thursday of the month. We take a summer break, but September will be our first meeting back. If anyone's interested in joining, just email me. And yeah, we're going to have a standing agenda item to just for people to provide input on use of the community center and making it accessible and as useful to the community as possible. I'll also make a little plug for just the coalition in general. We're dedicated to youth substance abuse prevention here in the East County community, and we provide a lot of youth and parent and family support programs. So we have a couple of different programs we'll be running this year. If any of you work with East County families, you may consider sending them our way. We'll be running Strengthening Families in October and sometime this winter. That is for families with kids 10 to 14 years old. Both the parents and the kids attend. They have separate sessions and then they come together. It's really to help them communicate and have healthy boundaries. The kids learn good thing. And yeah, and then we have Incredible Years for parents with preschool age children. It's great for anyone. It's not just, it's obviously helpful for at-risk families, but also just anybody with kids in that age group. So please send them our way if you've got families who might be interested in that.
Please do put your name and email address. And if you've got a website URL, go ahead and put that in the chat and we'll make sure to add that. We have a list of coalitions on the Community Action website and we'll make sure that that gets added to the website as well. So we are at 10:01 and I just want to thank everyone for participating. A special shout out to Community Action's Rockstar staff at the East County Resource Center and the East County and the Concrete Community Center, and all of our fabulous partners from the county and nonprofit organizations who make it all possible. So together, we are neighbors helping neighbors and providing hope in rural and isolated parts of Skagit County. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.